Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome friends. This is the 12th lecture in this course Political Parties and Party System in India, and today in this lecture we are going to discuss a very important political party in contemporary Indian politics, Bahujan Samaj Party. In this lecture we are going to discuss the formation of BSP or Bahujan Samaj Party, its ideology and legacy of Ambedkar and Periyar that this party tries to carry forward in the electoral politics in India. And then we will discuss the leadership of BSP, particularly under Kansiram and Mayawati. And in later part of this lecture, we will also discuss the major contribution of BSP in the Indian politics and the challenges that it faces in contemporary politics and what are the future prospect for the BSP. The BSP is a national party which is established on caste lines. If you recall the lecture on party system, we have discussed the social cleavages theory to understand political party, where political parties tend to represent a particular segment or a particular section of the society, and all its policies, programs and politics caters towards this appeal to a particular sections in the society. BSP is one such party which tries to represent the interest of Dalit or backward class communities in India. In doing so, this party can be seen as the representative of many anti-caste politics that happened in modern Indian politics, started with Jyotirao Phule in the modern times, then Ambedkar and many other socialist and Janata parties. BSP made it exclusive to the representation of the voices of Dalits and giving them more participation in the political process. So, gradually it started in the UP, but it expanded in other states, and it has its member as the legislative assembly member in different states such as MP, Rajasthan, even in Karnataka. BSP is a national party which is established on caste lines, and it emerged out of the activities of All India Backward and Minority Communities Employees Federation in 1978, and later by the working of its activist wing called the Dalit Shosith Samaj Sangharsh Samiti in 1982. So, with the merger of these two blocks, BSP came into being to represent exclusively the voice of the Dalit and giving them more representation and participation in the political process. As a mass party with a specific social constituency, it expanded its base first under the leadership of Manevar Kansiram and later under the leadership of Mayawati in the state of UP. The party came into being primarily as a defender of Dalit interests and gradually started working towards protecting the rights of other minority communities, and later on, as the name suggests, the Bahujan, which includes the Brahmins or other upper castes community also, and that was more so because of the pragmatic needs for the party to garner a kind of broad base support in the society to obtain power or to retain in the power. So, it started as a party which exclusively represent the interest or the voice of Dalits community in India, but gradually it began to with the other social forces including the Brahmins and other upper caste to have a broad based social alliance to obtain power and retain in the power. So, that was because of the pragmatic needs of having support base across the social community to get the power or to get maximum vote and seats in order to form the government. And by forming the government, BSP, unlike many other leaders, wanted the state as an institution or state power for the upliftment of the Dalit communities in India. So, the sole purpose of fighting election or forming the government for the BSP was to empowering the Dalit communities, and they focus exclusively on the needs or the interest of the Dalit community. However, because of the compulsion of the electoral politics, they gradually began to align with other social forces such as upper caste and the Brahmins. The party fights for the political power and leadership to the Dalits, as I have discussed, and it praises the activists of Dalits role models or eminent Dalit personalities like Valmiki, Virangi, Jyotirao Phule, Ambedkar and Periyar and so on. Although the party is inspired by the Ambedkar and his philosophy of annihilating the caste, yet it has not accepted the idea of annihilation of caste that Ambedkar had envisioned. So, for the BSP, its focus is more on achieving equality among different castes rather than annihilation of caste or abolition of caste completely, by fighting the caste based discrimination in every form. So, the objective of the BSP, although it is inspired by the ideology and philosophy of Ambedkar, is not about annihilation of the caste, but about achieving equality among different castes. In other words, by fighting the caste based discrimination in every forms. So, BSP focuses on putting different castes on equal footing without any vertical hierarchy or discrimination between and among them. However, the party claimed that it has not deviated from the Ambedkar's ideology of Dalit empowerment, which is the main plank or the main guiding force behind the formation of BSP. It wishes to fight caste based discriminations within the caste structure rather than abolishing or annihilating the caste as a social reality in Indian society. So, caste is caste is regarded as existential reality in Indian society, and so for the party, that is BSP, caste system will prevail. The party hence believe that the political power should rest in the hands of every caste. In other words, the power should be distributed equally among the all caste without one caste dominating the other or exploiting the other caste, or state and its power remain in the hand of a few castes alone. So, the party is against the upper castes or Brahmins domination over the Dalits or the lower caste, as the prevalent caste system or karma theory in society prescribes. So, the battle or the struggle of the BSP is against this domination of one caste over the other, particularly the Dalits and the lower castes, as it is prevalent in a caste system that or the karma theory that prescribes or justifies such domination and discrimination. So, it fights against the caste based discrimination in any form in the society. Now, if we look at the ideology of BSP, the party claims to be inspired and influenced by the ideology of Ambedkar and the philosophy against caste based discrimination, particularly the discrimination between Brahmins or upper caste and the Dalits. So, they trace the inspiration or the model for their political works or policies from the ancient leaders or the role models who fought against such prevalent discrimination between upper caste or the Brahmin and Dalits or the lower castes in the society. In the modern times particularly, they focus on Ambedkar and Periyar, and their ideology and politics are the guiding spirit for the BSP in terms of its policies and mobilization of particular social caste in that is more concentrated in UP, but also in the other northern and northwestern states and also in Karnataka. The party's ideology do not support annihilation or removal of caste order, but it focuses on homogenization of caste in society to establish an equal and socially just society. So, the objective of the BSP is not then the annihilation of caste as Ambedkar had argued, but a kind of socially just society where different castes have same or equal access to power, and there is equality prevail among the social caste and the social groups without one dominating or discriminating against the other. So, the BSP stands for democratization of political order and to create a horizontal social order. So, the objective of the BSP is to make the political order, particularly the state and its institution in India, more democratic by giving more representation and participation to those who are excluded and the marginalized in the society and also from the Indian state and its bureaucracy. So, the party tries to make this political order more democratic, and it tries to create a horizontal social order rather than the vertical division of the caste system or caste hierarchy that is prevalent in Hindu society. In BSP, as we will see in later part of this lecture, there is no fixed political ideology. So, as we have discussed in other political parties such as BJP or the Congress or the left parties such as CPI and CPIM, in contrast to them, BSP do not explicitly associate with any fixed ideology, as the party is seen transforming from an exclusivist to an inclusive party over the years to retain the power. So, since its formation in 1980s, over the years it started as an exclusivist party for the Dalits, but it constantly align or include newer groups in the society. Earlier the party was seen as an exclusive Dalit or lower caste party by excluding the upper caste, particularly Brahmins, in 1990s. However, after few elections that BSP fought, they realized the limits of such exclusivity and began to align with newer social groups. Particularly since early 2000, the BSP is no longer seen as an exclusivist party because it has started accommodating all castes within its party, particularly the Brahmins and the upper caste. And this social alliance helped the BSP to gain electoral edge over its competitors like SP and BSP in the politics of UP. So, this social coalition that BSP formed was due to the electoral compulsion, and that shows the party's constant transformation from a exclusivist party to a more broad social based political parties. However, Dalits remain the main support base for the BSP. By this accommodation or inclusion of new caste groups, enhance this idea of Sarvajan and Bahujan ideology of the party, which means that the party is not just for a particular community, but it represents and gives voice to all castes and the communities. So, the idea of Bahujan is then not limited to a particular caste groups or community such as Dalits or the lower caste, but it has the potential to include the every groups and communities in this society. So, BSP began to put more emphasis on this idea of Sarvajan and Bahujan in order to get more electoral support in a pluralist society like India. Now, if you look at the legacy of Ambedkar and Periyar and how they, their philosophy has influenced the politics of BSP, particularly its leader like Manyavad Kansiram and others. Ambedkar in modern India fought against the caste system that was prevalent in Indian society, and he demanded annihilation or complete abolition of caste in order to establish social equality and social justice in the society. So, Ambedkar in his politics was very critical of the prevalent caste system, and as a social reformer or political activist, he was not someone who was fighting for reforming the caste system, but his overall vision was to annihilate the caste, to abolish the caste system as a whole, to create a more socially equal and egalitarian society. He adopted the term Dalit, that is lower caste, to describe the caste discrimination that was prevalent against them, which was socially and historically and also economically depressed classes in Indian society, and he managed to get exclusive rights for them in the colonial government and also after the independence of India. So, he did not believe that the liberal democracy could bridge the gap that exists due to caste inequalities, or it could bring true equality in Indian society. So, one of the famous statement by Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly is that a liberal parliamentary democratic India is entering into a life of contradiction, that is, in the political and legal life we will have equality, but in social and economic life we will have inequality, and how long we are going to continue in this life of contradiction. So, he had serious apprehension about liberal democracy's capacity to bridge the gap that exists due to caste system in India. He believed that there were social and economic circumstances that lead to inequality in society, and power proliferates across the social relationship. So, how to address them to bring about the real equality and a socially just system. He believed in the representation of all and not in a narrow type of representation where only elites would come to power. After independence, he drafted the constitution and gave representation socio-economic and cultural upliftment of the backward caste and communities like SCs and ST. So, the concept of preferential treatment, or what we call reservation in India, was a constitutional mechanism devised to give better representation to these historically and socio-economically disadvantaged sections in Indian society. Ambedkar believed in transforming people's opinion into people's action through representation or adult franchise, and to bring Dalits and backward class and caste to political power. So, for him this constant political act was to empower the Dalits and other backward classes, and for him then education, the politics is about this struggle to create a more socially equal and just society. The BSP, which is inspired by Ambedkar philosophy of bringing equality in the society, and as we have emphasized, for him true equality requires the annihilation of the caste system. But the strategy that BSP has followed was not about annihilation of caste, but through homogenization of caste to place different castes on equal footing. So, BSP was trying to formulate policy within the caste structure rather than annihilating the caste system. Both Ambedkar and BSP struggles was to fight for the dignity, honor and prides of Dalit community. So, what connects the BSP and its politics to the ideology and the philosophy of Ambedkar was their common struggle to fight for the dignity, honor and pride of Dalits community. Ambedkar advised Dalits to educate, agitate and organize themselves, and this call of Ambedkar was inspiring call for many groups or parties in India fighting for caste and socially unjust power relationship. So, BSP to a certain extent tries to create such a tripartite path for the Dalits through its actions and functioning as a national political party in India. So, in many of its policies and programs, BSP constantly tries to educate and give opportunity to Dalits and depressed classes to first get access to quality education, and then give them the platform to demand from the state and its institution, and to organize themselves better for the protection of their interest. So, the BSP in that sense are deeply influenced by the politics and the philosophy of Ambedkar. Periyar along with Ambedkar also occupies a prominent place in Indian politics. He too inspired the BSP's policies and objectives by his activities against caste-based discrimination and oppressive power relations prevalent in Indian society, particularly in South India. Periyar was against upper caste Brahmins' domination against the Dalits in Tamil Nadu, and he was depressed by the prevalent oppressive power relations and subjugation of lower caste by the higher caste Brahmins. Periyar actively participated in the politics of removal of untouchability in South India. Before becoming vociferous about Dalit identity and dignity, Periyar was supporting the Congress party as he believed Congress was serious about the caste discriminations. He participated in Gandhi's non-cooperation movement and supported his khadi, spinning and weaving of clothes endeavor. However, later he deviated from the Congress party and he led self-respect movement to provide a sense of dignity and respect for the lower castes or the Dalits or the non-Brahmin on their Dravidian past history and rich culture in Tamil Nadu. The self-respect movement was a non-religious movement to improve the socio-economic condition of the Dalits. It influenced the BSP to uplift the socio-economic and cultural upliftments of Dalit in the post-colonial and contemporary times. So, the philosophy and the politics of both Ambedkar and Periyar was a kind of guiding spirit behind the politics and programs of the Bahujan Samaj party. Now, if you look at its leadership, first we will discuss Manyvar Kansiram. He was an active political leader who formed the BSP. The formation of the Bahujan Samaj party was result of the inspiring leadership of Manyvar Kansiram, and that gave the Dalit a prominent platform to raise their demand and interest. So, prior to the formation of BSP, there were different kinds of parties representing the interest of different social groups. It was to the credit of Kansiram that he formulated a party exclusively to give voice for these Dalit communities, to mobilize them and to articulate their demands against the state. He did not held any prominent official position, but he made strategies for the party to mobilize lower caste to obtain and retain power. And for the first time, there is a shift in Dalit politics in India from ideological position to join electoral politics, to form the government, to join the state and its institution, to create greater space for the Dalits or other backward classes, and this was a kind of transformation in Dalit politics when it comes to fight caste based discrimination in modern India. At different intervals, Kansiram joined hand with many parties such as Samajwadi Party and the Bharatiya Janata Party to strengthen the party ties and expand its social base or support during the election. So, though the party was rooted in the mobilization of Dalit community, however, due to electoral compulsion, it was open to align with any parties to come into the power or to join the government. So, time it has aligned with Samajwadi Party and also the BJP to broaden, to expand its social base and support base, particularly during the time of election. Kansiram was an active supporter of the concept of social justice and was against Congress's market policies of liberalization, privatization during the 1990s. He was deeply influenced by the Ambedkar's annihilation of caste and was made aware and conscious of his specific Dalit caste identity. His earlier activities were involved with the BAMCAF, non-political organization comprised of the educated backward employee, which helped financially and financially the depressed and the lower caste or exploited Dalit community. So, Kansiram, before the formation of Bahujan Samaj Party, was deeply influenced by Gandhi, Ambedkar annihilation of caste, and his own experience helped him to fight for the rights of the Dalit communities. And BAMCAF was the organization of the backward caste educated or employee to extend financial support to many depressed or exploited Dalit communities in India. He participated in the activities like cycle rallies, Jagrans to erode Dalit consciousness and sentiments among the people. So, the mobilization of Dalit politics, particularly in UP, is a result of this constant striving by Manevar Kansiram, and later he made BSP a party for all castes oppressed by existing power structure and the social relationship. So, the formation and the expansion of the support base of the Bahujan Samaj party was the result of constant striving of Manevar Kansiram. BSP, however, acquired a new political space, and it formed government also under the leadership of Mayawati. Mayawati was inspired and brought into politics by Kansiram, and he was her political mentor and offered her the leadership of the BSP. Mayawati belongs to Chamar caste within Dalits. She met Kansiram in 1977 and later became an active member of the Bahujan Samaj party. It was in 2001 during a rally when Kansiram named her as his successor and the president of the BSP. He died in 2006, and since then the BSP is under the leadership of Mayawati. She made the BSP a significant political force in the state of UP and contributed immensely, like Kansiram, to provide a strong political image or platform for the Dalits. She reached out to the numbers of Dalit community to create a strong support base for Bahujan Samaj party. However, to gain electoral benefits in post 2000 election, she started moving towards the upper caste as well as to make BSP an inclusive party to represent voices of all castes by putting caste on equal footing. So, her strategy was to broaden the scope of BSP by including the newer castes and newer groups in the society from its exclusive focus on Dalits in the earlier period. This policy was criticized by many. Moreover, there are many parts in UP where the OBC's relation with Dalits are not cordial. It leads to caste rivalries, conflicts, and parties' emphasis on upper caste is argued to be diluting its exclusivist Dalit ideology. So, this aligns with the newer groups and communities in the society on the one hand gave BSP more stake in the electoral politics. However, on the other hand, it deviated the attention from its core social basis of Dalit and the emancipation of Dalit, and that confusion perhaps lead to the gradual decline of BSP, as we can see in the election of 2014 or also in 2019. So, it began to lose its voters to mostly votes of both OBCs and Muslims who are still solidly behind the Samajwadi party, and many of these SCs, STs and also OBC now increasingly shifting towards the national party such as BJP. So, this broad based social alliance or coalition that Mayawati tries to achieve has led to the decline of BSP as well in terms of its support base, and many scholars have argued that even the core base of the BSP, that is Jatavs among the Dalit, have now also began to desert BSP and support particularly the BJP. So, there are the negative implication of such broad based social alliance by the BSP as well. However, it could not win the election or have chance to form the government unless it broaden its social basis. So, Mayawati installed statues of eminent Dalit leaders or Dalit personalities to remember their significant contribution to uplift their dignity and Dalit consciousness. So, under the Mayawati chief ministership in the UP government, there was the installation of big statues of Dalit leaders and Dalit personalities, primarily to increase the Dalit consciousness among the communities and to uplift their status and dignity. However, such constructions under her leadership did not go well with her critics and also many followers. Now, if you look at BSP's contribution to Indian politics, in the beginning of its political career, the BSP gained active support from the Dalits and other subcastes of Dalit like the Chamars during 1996 Lok Sabha elections. About 60.6% Dalit voted for the BSP, and except Koiris, no other OBC had any political ties with the BSP. The party's SC votes, however, declined in 1996 and 1998. In 1998, declined from 1996 in 1998. In 1998, BSP suffered a defeat by the SP and the BJP, which got 28.9% and 25.9% of the votes respectively, and the BSP secured only 19.4% of the votes. In order to increase the support base and secure political victory, the BSP moved towards the upper castes, as Dalit votes by then would not be sufficient for the party to gain electoral victory. And that was the reason why BSP shifted towards seeking alliance among the upper caste and particularly the Brahmins to have this edge over the rival parties like SP and BSP, as we have seen. However, this led to gradual decline in Dalit support to the BSP. For example, Valmiki's, Silpkars and artisans started voting for the BJP by deserting the BSP. So, within the Dalits communities, particularly non-Jatavs and Valmikis, Silpkars and artisans started to vote for the BJP by deserting the BSP, and moreover the BSP made a pre-electoral alliance with the Congress in 1996 Vidhan Sabha election to secure upper caste votes for the party. However, the alliance broke down as Congress did not agree to Mayawati's demand for the CM post to the BSP. It shows by then that the BSP did not have a fixed ideology or a concrete program or plan of action. So, BSP presented a good example of pragmatic politics without imprisoning into any political ideology. So, the objective of the BSP was to get the power, to retain the power, and by retaining the power giving space to the Dalit communities, to uplift them, to empower them, to give them the leadership positions, which was denied by many other parties such as left or the BJP or even the Congress. In its quest to give that space to Dalits, it constantly tries to align with different political parties, as we have seen SP, also BJP and also again the Congress. and that leads to some kind of confusion about the policies or the ideology of BSP, and gradually many communities within Dalits began to vote for the BJP, and increasingly in the recent election many Jatovs also began to desert BSP and support the BJP. BSP lacks a consistent ideology to mobilize people. Rather, such a flexible stand of the party was confusing for the voters. It made alliance with BJP also for some time to garner votes, but it too did not last long, and in 2019 Lok Sabha election, BSP aligned with SP, its bitter rival in UP. However, its electoral prospect did not improve much. So, even with this alignment with the rival party, BSP's electoral prospect has not improved substantially, and many of its core support base or communities are increasingly supporting the other rival parties. Now, if we look at the party challenges and prospect, BSP in contemporary politics is struggling to have a well defined ideology and a consistent policy. So, one of the biggest challenge for the BSP is to provide a well defined ideology and a consistent policy framework. Kansiram was aware about the opportunistic behaviors of the party members. In 1995, there was a split in the party. There was Kurmi revolt inside the BSP, and the formation of Apna Dal marked the separation of Kurmis from the BSP. It resulted into BSP seeking support from other subcastes like Balmikis, Dooms, Khatiks, Kanjars and Badhiks, etc. So, within the party there is a tussle, or there is a constant infighting for party positions, for the leadership positions, or greater stake in the decision making, and so on. The party is criticized for its flexible stand on the caste and identity politics, and also for its stand against the caste discrimination, as we have seen that how it constantly tries to expand its social base by giving tickets or giving a space to the rival groups and communities against whom it began political journey, such as upper caste and Brahmins. And on the other hand, politically also it constantly tries to align with BJP or SP or even Congress, just for the sake of getting the power or getting a space in government formation. The objective of the BSP is to get the power and use that power to uplift the masses. However, for its long term success or for the consolidation of its support base, such activities of the BSP create confusion among many of its support base, which is reflected in its recent electoral performance. So, there are genuine apprehension about its claim of representing and protecting the interest of all the marginalized, voiceless and poor Dalits, particularly of the non-Jatovs. Another crisis of the BSP in recent decade is the lack of credible leadership. So, except Mayawati, there is no second rank of credible face or leaders in the BSP, and within the Dalits community, many youths do not see BSP as the legitimate representative of Dalits voice or the sole representative of Dalits voice. So, in the recent decades, you see many Dalit leaders or youth forming their own communities, forming their own groups to represent the interest of Dalits. So, this leadership crisis has presented another challenge to the politics and the prospect of BSP in Indian politics, and it constantly losing its ground in assembly or in parliament, and also among its social support base. However, BSP remain the most dominant political parties that represent the interest of Dalits in India, and the formation and growth of BSP in the politics of North India, particularly UP, has been a great disruptor in terms of uplifting the Dalits, who are socially, economically as well as historically deprived communities in India. It has given them a strong voice or a great stake in the political process. However, BSP in contemporary times is facing many challenges, as we have discussed. First, in terms of its ideological confusion and its constant alignment with rival parties on the one hand, and among the different social groups on the another hand, has proved setbacks, proved to be setbacks for the BSP in the long term, where which is reflected in its recent electoral performance in the assembly election and also in the parliamentary election. Nonetheless, BSP as a political party continue to provide a strong platform for the voices of Dalit and other marginalized communities in India. In this lecture on the BSP, if you like to know more about its ideology, leadership, policies and programs, you can refer to some of these texts like Rekha Divakar, Party System in India, and Joya Hassan, Parties and Party Politics in India. Also Mahendra Singh and Rekha Saxena, Indian Politics, Contemporary Issues and Concern, and similarly the other text mentioned in these slides you can refer to understand more about the politics, policies and programs of the BSP, and also the various challenges that it is facing in contemporary Indian politics. So that is all in this lecture today. I hope you liked it. I look forward to your comments and feedbacks. Thanks for your time, and thanks for listening. Thank you all.